Okay, so thanks everybody for joining. We're here to talk about lean transformation on a budget. All of us have constraints when it comes to time, when it comes to money, so we all have to be conscious about how we use our resources. But a lot of us are also very interested in creating a culture of continuous improvement, lean Six Sigma, and some of the other methodologies for for building a better business. So I'm Calvin. I'm an Improver University, and we're going to spend a little time talking about this. We got some techniques to share that you may find interesting. So here's a quick overview of the agenda. I'll introduce myself, a little bit about our company. We'll define what we mean or what I mean when I say lean transformation. There's some differences in definitions as far as that goes. So we'll level on that. We'll talk about lean in the digital age. Everybody's talking about digital. Everybody's talking about AI and all those things. We're going to touch on that just a little bit. Then we're going to talk people development, old way versus new way, process development, old way versus new way, and then lean leadership, old way versus new way. Right? There's some things you guys are going to find really interesting in the way lean is transforming, given digital and some of the other forces that we work with. And lastly, we'll talk business impact. So, what does all this do, or what's all this mean for your business if you were, to adopt some of the methods we'll propose here today or discuss today? So, okay, quick introduction of myself. My name is Calvin Williams. I am the founder and CEO of Improver, which includes Improver University. My home base is in Atlanta, Georgia, but my family currently travels through Latin America currently, and we're living in Santa Marta, Colombia. I am looking out of the window here, and I guess maybe I'll show you guys this. I can't resist. So this is this is the window outside of where I'm sitting now in Santa Marta. This is the Caribbean Sea. And we've got a beautiful Airbnb right off of the coast of Colombia. So if you ever get a chance, I would highly encourage you to come and visit. So we're traveling through Latin America while we support companies in driving continuous improvement cultures, Lean Six Sigma, and all the rest. And the way we do this is we have a technology solution that allows us to serve a lot of companies, and the software does a lot of the work. And I'll show you guys the kind of impact that technology is helping to make when it comes to driving lean. I've got about a little bit over 20 years experience now, work with some great companies, Nestle, Mars, Tyson, A.T. Kearney, Clorox, et cetera. I've got a bachelor's of science in industrial engineering, master's business administration, went to school at University of Nebraska in Lincoln, got a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, Amazon best-selling author. My book is called Fit, The Simple Science of Achieving Strategic Goals. Fantastic book, in my humble opinion. And I'm also a 2-year gold status president of the Institute of Industrial Engineers, the Atlanta chapter. Ran that chapter for a while, and we grew the chapter about 340% year over year while I was there. So, all right, enough about me. Let's get into the stuff you came to see. So when we talk about lean transformation, there's a lot of different ideas on what it means to make a lean transformation. We look at a few things, right? And if you'll notice, we don't focus so much on the use of tools per se, because tools are great, but they're the cart. We talk more about the horse, right? So here's how we look at a lean transformation. Number one, well-trained teams in lean principles and tools, right? We're talking at least greater than 80% having completed some formal lean training, right? At least at the white belt level, but depending on the person's role, yellow belt, green belt, black belt, master black belt, we should see some type of formal training where most folks have been through it, a majority of folks. Number two, a high rate of improvement. So if you're getting toward a Kaizen culture of everybody, every day, everywhere, ultimately, we're looking for consistently greater than 3 documented improvements per employee per year. You may say 3 is not a whole lot, but most companies, if you said, hey, show me how many improvements a given employee has made this year, documented, most companies would struggle to produce those type of records. So There should be some formal program that is encouraging everybody every day, right? If Kaizen is really the goal. Number three, high rate of strategic goal achievement, right? Again, if you were to pull up last year's strategy, how many of those goals actually got completed and implemented, right? In most companies, the answer is I don't know. And decent or, good companies that are really tracking this, they could probably tell you, we did 30, 40, 50%. What we look for is consistently greater than 70%, right? Consistently greater than 7 out of 10 goals implemented, achieved, getting the level of results that we're expecting. Okay, so there you go. Very simple. Let's jump into lean in the digital age. Now, I'm going to present some ideas here that you guys may find surprising, but that's a good thing, right? We should always be pushing the paradigm and pushing the way of thinking when it comes to lean. So we've seen a few industrial revolutions, and some would say that we're in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution. Okay. So the first industrial revolution was mechanization, steam power, weaving loom. The second one was mass production, assembly line, and so forth. The third one's automation, computer, electronics, and then some would say that artificial intelligence and some of the digital technology that's available today is driving us into a fourth industrial revolution, right? Whether you agree with that or not, that's a common thought that's out there. So, interesting observation that as I look at this, and I talk about this in various settings, is that the first industrial revolution, or all four, is really just a new type of engineering that's driving substantial change across industries. Okay. So the first one is you can look at it like mechanical engineering, right? Driving us all forward. The second one is industrial engineering. I'm an industrial engineer, represent IEs. Okay. The third one is computer engineering, driving transformation. And now we're getting into software engineering, driving transformation. All of these revolutions are built upon the learnings and the lessons from the previous revolution. So keep that in mind as we go forward through this presentation. All right, so let's dive a little deeper on that last one. We're talking about software engineering, right? What is software? You look at the source code of software. Really, all software, they say it's all zeros and ones, but it's all kind of organized into source code. This is what, as humans, what we interpret. So software is a series of process steps that are performed automatically, performed by a computer. In our world, as lean people, as industrial engineers, what do we call a document that has a series of process steps? We call that standard work. We call that standard procedure, right? Without standards, there can be no improvement. So really, I've seen companies take an approach of driving a lean transformation by going and just standardizing every process in the business, right? Right or wrong, efficient or not efficient, just go through, document, and standardize everything, and then let that be the foundation for improvement. I'm not saying that's a great idea, but it's probably not a terrible idea either, right? Once you have a common way of doing something, it's easier to step forward together in a common approach. So, but again, taking that back to digital, what these software engineers have done is taking the latest and greatest learnings from previous waves of efficiency and transformation and implemented it in a new way, right? So the standard work of today and yesterday is essentially going to be software of tomorrow, right? It's already happened. I won't even say tomorrow. It's already happened, right? So if you're creating standard work still, maybe it's time to start thinking about learning to read and write code, right? The standard work of tomorrow is software code. Let's talk about how digital is impacting work, right? Most organizations are organized. You got frontline workers at the base of the pyramid. You got middle managers in the middle, and then top leaders at the top of the pyramid. There's a couple of new technologies that are impacting the way we work, right? You got AI, you got IoT, you got blockchain, you got augmented reality, virtual reality, and you got quantum computing, right? I won't spend a lot of time on quantum because I don't think we know enough to talk about that and what impacts it's going to make. We're just hearing that it's going to be huge. AI, of course, is the talk on front of everybody's mind. How's it going to affect what I do? How's it going to affect what you do? what we do. IoT, of course, is essentially pulling data, performing analysis, and reporting that data out, pulling data from anywhere and everywhere, and making it available anywhere and everywhere. Blockchain is distributed ledgers. It's a more reliable system of tracking things, less centralized. AR, VR, see it before you do it, see it before you build it. Augmented, meaning bring other elements into reality, or you can see things that aren't there, but they may help you do the thing you're trying to do, right? And then there's quantum computing. So we talk about lean, right? We're trying to drive lean on the budget. Lean, there's a span of where lean players play, right? These are lean professionals. And it's mostly at that middle manager space. But you may find lean people at the frontline space. You may find lean leaders at the executive leadership space. In fact, we're seeing a surge of VP and even C-level operational excellence people, in certain companies, which I'm happy to see, right? I think ultimately CEO is the ultimate driver of lean within a company. But obviously, the more authority you give these people driving this mentality, this mindset, you get better outcomes. Okay, so what's the impact of technology on lean, right? If you look at the impact of tech on business in general, you can apply it using the idea of the golden triangle, and the golden triangle being speed, quality, and cost, right? Greater speed, greater quality at a lower cost. So what's the impact of tech on lean, right? Technology and some of the latest, greatest methodologies on lean, right? First, you're going to bring down costs. What I mean by that is less expensive, or less cost, less effort, less resources consumed in order to produce the results we're looking for from our lean programs. Second, you're talking about increased speed, meaning you're going to get there faster, right? Instead of taking 5 years to drive a lean transformation, can we do it in a year and a half, right? Or less? Is that possible? And the third thing we're talking is increased quality. And here we're saying you're going to have a greater impact of your CI efforts, right? You're going to achieve your goals, achieve more goals. You're going to reach your North Star sooner. You're going to get where you're going with less, make a greater impact from your effort all around. So the net effect of this, what we're trying to achieve with lean or any type of CI, is everybody, every day, everywhere, right? We want that culture to transcend any one of us as individuals. All right, so let's jump into people development. This is actually going pretty quickly, so we'll have some time to talk at the end. If you have questions in the meantime, make sure to drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure to get those incorporated. So let's talk people development, right? We're developing people, we're developing processes, and I would include technology as processes, people, processes, technology. And then we're talking about leadership, like how does it change the life of a leader driving a lean transformation? Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk is people development, right? And we're sort of layering that over driving down the cost of a lean transformation. Okay, and we can't really talk about people development and training without talking about learning management systems, right? This is tech being applied to the training, the discipline of training. Okay. So in the traditional model, you've got a lean pro with all this knowledge in their head, creating decks upon decks of presentation slides and leading workshops and doing all those things. And they are training the workforce, right? And like we said, we want to see 80% of people having some type of formal training, right? So here we're saying for 1,000-person company, Greenbelt equivalent. Again, this is illustrative. This is not a real company or anything like that. Just trying to make a point. So for 1,000-person company, and for this lean pro, they're going to organize classes sizes of about 20 people per class, right? More or less. So 1,000 people total, 20 people per class. We're looking at about 50 classes that are going to get put through this training, which is Greenbelt equivalent. So the amount of hours that are included in a Greenbelt training, take a person from no training to Greenbelt, is about 30 hours more or less, right? Depending on how intensive the program is. So again, 50 classes, 30 hours per class. That lean teacher is going to have to put in about 1,500 hours, right? To do that manually, the traditional way. If you look at with a learning management system, Same number of people, 1,000 people, same number of employees per class. So we're still having classes, but we're using what's called a flipped classroom model, right? So they're going to study the content online. They're going to watch the videos. They're going to read through the material. They're going to take the quizzes and the tests. They're going to pass through all of that first. Then they're going to spend a little time in the classroom with the Lean Pro to talk about, hey, what did you guys learn from the course material? Let's recap. Let's summarize. Let's make sure we got the key points. Then let's talk about how we're going to apply what you learned to our real life, real world situation, right? In your job. Where do you see opportunities? So that's where you're going from 30 hours per lean belt, lean Six Sigma green belt training hours to really 5 hours for that lean teacher, really 5 hours per class. So that takes the number of hours that it takes you got to have a paid lean pro teaching people down from 1,500 hours down to 250 hours. Again, most of the learning and knowledge transfer is happening through the learning management system. All right, so that's one. So we just brought down some costs, right? We're trying to do lean on a budget, right? Budget time, budget money. What else can we do? There's a concept that we like to call distribution, where you're transitioning from the lean pro going out and leading all the projects themselves to the lean pro being more of an orchestrator, meaning helping everyone to set goals, make progress toward their goals, and ultimately deliver improvements for the business, right? Where you're pulling everybody into the lean journey, right? So on the left side, the lean pro is leading all the projects, okay? Lean pro as Kaizen manager. We're over here on this left side. So the number of project leaders is just one. It's just the lean pro. They're, illustrative again. They're going to deliver 12 projects a year. That's if you're lucky. If you're lucky to get 12 projects out of the lean pro a year. Number of improvements per project is about 5. Let's say that's 5 solid improvements per project. So in a year's time, again, 1,000-person company, one lean pro driving all the projects, you're going to get about 60 solid improvements per year, right? And I think that's being generous. I think I've seen situations where you got 3 or 4 projects a year out of the lean pro, but here you're going to get 12, okay? And you're going to get 60 improvements for the company in a year. On the right side of that, again, you're going to engage all employees in driving improvement. Now, they're not going to be as proficient with the tools. They're not going to be as productive project management wise as a lean pro, but they're going to give you something, okay? So here you go. That lean pro is saying, hey, I'm not going to do all the projects myself. I'm going to use technology. I'm going to engage everybody. Now, instead of having one project leader, you got 1,000. Again, 1,000 people in the company. Everybody's carrying some weight here, right? Projects per year, per person, you're not going to get 12 out of everybody, but let's say you do get one, right? You get one solid project out of everybody, right? You'll be better for it, and so will they, and the business will too, right? Number of improvements per project, we're still going to get 5 solid improvements out of each project. So again, less projects, same number of improvements per project. Here you're going from 60 with the lean pro driving all the projects and all the improvements, 60 improvements per year to 5,000 improvements per year. You're getting a lot more mileage out of your lean program. You're going to make a much, much bigger impact, and the speed of transformation overall is incomparably faster, better, more thorough, and all the things you want from a lean program. All right, that's the second technique. I got one more to share with you, so stick with me here. Let's talk about leadership. If you were to put a survey on LinkedIn or somewhere else and say, hey, what's the biggest roadblock to lean, is the number one answer is almost always going to be lack of leadership support, leadership this, leadership that, right? Right or wrong, that's what people believe, right? That's what people feel. So let's talk about what a technique to make to drive that leadership, the level of leadership engagement necessary to build and sustain a lean culture. Okay. I'm gonna call this live updates. I could just as well call this leaders as coaches, because that's what we're really getting to, is leaders as coaches, right? Live updates increases the quality of transformation. Okay, so we're going to go from the traditional model where the leader trying their best to stay plugged in is going to do 4 status updates per year. We're going to do one a quarter, right? We're going to get together. We're going to do a big PowerPoint presentation. We're going to pull all the data and we're going to show, all right, this is where we started. These are all the great projects we did. And this is where we sit today. Boom, 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 right? That gives the leader 4 opportunities a year to course correct if people and ideas start veering down the wrong path, right? And we do research on this, and we talk to a lot of people, and we always ask the question: if you were to pull up, if you're doing something like this, and it's very common, your company may not be, but it's very common across other companies. If we were to pull up last year's process and how you guys drive strategic achievement, and it's something like this, we do, quarterly reviews kind of thing, you'll see an achievement rate around 15% more or less of previous year's strategic goals and strategic projects, right? It's relatively low. It almost makes you wonder why we do that, right? Well, if it doesn't work, why do we keep doing it? And oftentimes it's, we don't look at the process, we blame the people, which is unfortunate in itself, right? So now we're gonna look at the process here. And I'm gonna provide you a different way of thinking about this. So executive leader in the advanced model, the executive leader and all leaders throughout the entire chain of command across functions would serve more as coaches than sort of passively waiting on results kind of mentality. Okay. And leaders as coaches, it takes a more of meet with people briefly, 15 minutes a week, meet with your direct reports, 15 minutes a week, and ask a few questions. Hey, what's your goal? How are things going? What progress are you making? What challenges are you having? What you try last? What you going to try next? I'll see you next week when you get that done. Let's talk next week, right? So the leader's more plugged in and driving at least the focus on what's most important to improve and driving execution against that improvement all year long instead of once a quarter, right? Along with that, you've got a system, maybe a technology system that's pushing data up to that leader, so they're getting real time status updates on how their most important initiatives are going. So here you got going from 4 status updates a year to effectively real time, right? Live updates. So you've got basically infinite updates. Any day, anytime, you can get a status update on what's happening, right? With the lean program, the lean implementation. Course corrections, you can make a course correction at any moment, right? As soon as there's an issue, you can deal with it in real time instead of waiting for the next quarterly update, which may be way too long to get to a root cause or put an effective corrective action in place. Companies that do this, and we know who they are. We know who some of them are because we work with a lot of them. Companies that do this have a strategic goal achievement rate north of 90%, near 100 from what we've seen. So this is a superior way, and it doesn't take a lot of time from the leader, right? Really, the same amount of time you might put into a quarterly update, just do weekly, but just do very short weekly catch-up sessions, right? Really takes 5 minutes to say, hey, what's your goal? What'd you achieve? How are you doing? What you do last, what you learn from it, what you're going to do next. Very similar to like a Toyota Kata type of model, right? Or 4DX is another one. You might have heard of EOS, right? There's some wisdom in these approaches. And these aren't meant to be an hour a week. These are really just 5-10 minutes a week. Catch up with each direct report. All right, get back to work. We'll see you next week, right? And drive a little bit of accountability on execution against those strategic goals and those strategic projects. All right, so there's 3 techniques. Let's talk about the potential business impact of what I have just talked through. We talked about the golden triangle being reduce cost, increase speed, increase quality. So we're trying to do, right? And we're trying to do this when it comes to lean administration as well. So with the learning management system, we went from 1,500 hours for the lean trainer down to 250 hours, right? That's an 85% improvement. Huge cost reduction, right? We talked about implementing more of a distributed lean execution system where you're going from one person delivering 60 improvements per year to engaging everyone in delivering 5,000 improvements per year, right? You might have heard of Larry Aker's 2 second lean, where it's like every day we're going to give everybody 20 minutes to go and shave 2 seconds off of something they do in their, in their daily work, right? Shave off 2 seconds. If you can shave off 2 seconds every single day, you've got something incredible, right? Some of them will work, some of them won't, but at least the effort and the seriousness that is placed on the effort in itself drives the mindset and drives improvement. Live updates, and we're talking leaders as coaches. We're going from 15% year over year strategic goals achieved despite the people, right, toward 90+% strategic goals achieved. This is changing a leadership process and resulting in much, much greater goal achievement, which is ultimately what leaders are held accountable to, right? Are we hitting our strategic metrics, right? Are we delivering the results? So what does that do for the lean pro? You might be a lean pro and you're sitting back listening, looking at this like, oh, this guy's crazy. He's trying to eliminate my job. Why would I? No, I'm not. Actually, this is great news for you if you're that lean pro. Let me explain why. Okay. Traditional model, you got one lean pro serving one mid-sized company to varying degrees of success, right? Often lean pros are there for 2 years and they cycle through quickly, which is unfortunate too, right? But let's say, hey, current state, 150K per company, one mid-sized company, one lean pro, right? And 150 probably includes salary and benefits and all the rest for most lean pros. Future model, advanced model, that same lean pro with the right tech tools can serve as many as 20 mid-sized companies, right? Given the reduction in demand on that person's time, they can now serve a lot more companies. For some people, they might take that as great news. Myself, I do. I know this works because I'm doing it now, and a lot of my partners are doing this now too, right? We have probably 25 or 26 companies that we service, right? And I do so remotely from this beach in Santa Marta, right? And very effectively, might I add. So we know this works, and we're doing this, and the technology is helping. So this is good news, though, no matter where you are and what you want to do if you're a lean pro. What this does, bringing down the cost and bringing down the burden of lean, it essentially makes lean more essential in order to remain competitive because now more companies have access to lean. If lean costs a lot less and it's much simpler for companies to do, more companies will do it. And if more companies do it, then more companies have to do it, right? So let's walk through this. By bringing down the cost, bringing up the speed, and bringing up the quality of lean, more companies can now do lean, right? It's not just reserved for the bigger companies or wealthier companies that have the money and the resources. Now more people can do it, right? It went from 150 down to 20K or less than 20K, right? So if more companies can do it, more companies will do it. And if more companies will do it, competition will increase. Before, lean was such a competitive edge that if you're the only one in your category doing it, you're going to have a huge standout competitive advantage against your competitors, right? Now, if everybody's doing it, I used to play basketball. I used to run track too, but I used to play basketball. I love basketball. And if you go to the basketball park, the playground, basketball court, and there's 3 people out there, you're going to it's going to be an easy game, right? Not a lot of competition, easy day, right? But if you go to that basketball court and there's 30 people out there, you're going to have a competitive basketball game. Think of this in the same way. If everybody's on the court, the game becomes a lot more competitive. That drives greater demand for lean and lean professionals that are interested in helping companies do this. So it gets to a point where everybody must do lean. It becomes a matter of survival. Mr. Charles Darwin once said, it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones that are most responsive to change. And the change that this kind of movement makes is that lean becomes a must do instead of a nice to do. To the same point, tech and the methodologies we talked about today will drive up the demand for lean thinking. So what was once a luxury for a few becomes a necessity for many, according to Andrew Carnegie. So just think of lean becoming a necessity for many. Tech has the power to make what was once exclusive inclusive. Just think of lean becoming more inclusive. It's a great thing. Tech levels the playing field, making the once unattainable attainable for all. Just think of lean becoming attainable for all. It's the dream. It's the Kaizen dream, right? Everybody, every day, everywhere. So I'll share this with you really quickly, and then we'll jump into some questions. Um, I didn't go much into what we do at Improver as a company. We help companies to implement, execute lean transformations for under $30,000. And we bring the support to help companies do that too, whether they have internal resources or not. We have both cases. We can support the journey. So we have a continuous improvement software. This helps engage teams, engage everybody in continuous improvement, provides the tools and the resources to help do that, standardizes tools across the organization, helps manage Kaizen, helps track business impact, and helps reward results, right? It has a gamification system built in that as people achieve goals and complete actions and drive improvements, they earn coins that they can later trade in for rewards. It's very cool. People love it. The second piece of this is Improver University. This is the online courses and learning management system where you can train your entire organization in Lean Six Sigma from the white belt, yellow belt, green belt, black belt, and master black belt levels. In fact, the software is doing, again, 85% of the work. Internally, you'll have a enterprise management system where you can kind of just move people through the programs. Usually what we see is the first 3 months of when people get into this program, there's just an energy and an excitement. People want it, like there's a pull for it, and they're fighting to get to be first in line to go through the program. And that's great. And what we've seen leaders do is just leverage that momentum to drive tons and tons of improvement throughout the business. Um, Typically, we see, at minimum, $150,000 of savings in business and growth opportunities captured as a result of this program in just the first year, right? A lot more than in some companies do a lot better than that. Some companies approach 1 million or more in the first year. So, and then we have the accelerator. It's a train the trainer program. I'm not a big fan of being permanently dependent on outside consultants in order to run your business. I believe that companies should develop that capability within. We have an accelerator program that at the base level, you're learning how to drive Kaizen, learning how to drive improvement. It's very PDCA style, very in line with Toyota, Kata, and the like. You graduate there, you can go into what we call the first coach, which is equivalent to a black belt program, but it's more coaching based. So you're learning coaching skills. And the intent is to develop leaders to be better coaches. And then at the highest level, master black belt, typical master black belt is now you're going to get more sophisticated lean tools, more statistical tools, and all that. Our approach is more now you're going to become a second coach. And as a second coach, you're developing the black belts who are the first coaches. And those first coaches are developing the improvers who are driving the green belt projects. So you're developing that internal capability to not only turn on the lean machine, but to keep it running over time, right? To build that whole infrastructure. So, all right. So we provide all this again, all this certify your entire organization and get your Kaizen machine going for under 30K. All right, guys, the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Calvin L. Williams. You can reach me at calvinlwilliams.com. That's my website. It talks about Improver, talks about other things that I do, speaking engagements, et cetera, podcasting. You can learn more about the Improver CI platform at improver.com, IMPRUVER. And I want to personally invite you to join our community of continuous improvement professionals at the Improver University. That's university.improver.com. That's the same platform where you can become Lean Six Sigma certified. We have various levels of membership. There's 5 levels, and those 5 levels correspond with white, yellow, green, black, master black belt level certification. So if you were to come in and sign up as a partner, you also sign up as a black belt level. Um, you can essentially earn your black belt through that program at no additional cost. I think the cost is I think it's $50 a month at to turn your black belt essentially. You would pay annually, but that's about the cost. You can get your master black belt, right? You can get green, you can get yellow, and so forth. In fact, white belts are free. So if you sign up for the university, you get a free white belt. You could just take that and earn your certificate and let that be your starting point. So, all right, y'all, that's my time. Again, thanks again. Appreciate you making time to join me and chat here. We're gonna open up the floor for questions. Does anybody have any questions or answer for you at this time?
Kelvin,
Feel free
I've
free to
got
come
one.
off mute. Yep. Go ahead.
So, I come from an organization that was a heavy lean organization for a period of time, and I joined that organization through an acquisition. So I was not part of a lean culture where I came from, but
Mm.
was part of a continuous improvement culture. And and then when I came into the organization that did have the lean culture, I would say um, from an adoption perspective, it seemed to be about 30 to 40% adopted throughout the organization. So it wasn't like the 100% or the 1,000 employee example you gave. And so I'm just curious, how much do things slow down when you're in an organization that doesn't have that commitment from the top all the way down to the bottom, and it's more project by project, case by case basis than a way of life?
All right, I'm gonna say something you probably already know. If it's not coming from the top, you got a bit of an uphill battle right off the bat, right? So
Got it.
it's always better if the leaders are driving it, and really that's a lean transformation is a leadership function ultimately, right? It's best if it's coming directly from the CEO. In fact,
Yeah.
now that's not to say a lot of goodness couldn't be achieved. So even if you're in the middle, you're still an influencer. Obviously, you don't want to make too many waves, that so much so that it lands you yourself in hot water.
Mm-hmm.
But you can certainly have an impact, right? I've seen organizations that start by certifying all of their frontline supervisors at the green belt level. That's actually a great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Green frontline leaders have a direct impact on what's happening on the value stream, right? And that's where you're delivering value to the customer. So
Mm.
that's a great place to start. And and a lot of them are eager to develop professionally. So that just gives them an opportunity. And in fact, some of our customers now, uh, we see right away, we see a surge of people coming in saying, "Hey, I want to come in at green, I want a green belt level certification." Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of goodness can be done, even if it's at a project to project basis, even if it's at a green belt to green belt basis, even if a leader just says, "Hey, I'm going to start meeting with my team on a regular cadence and doing these weekly check-ins, and using the appropriate tools to do that," a lot of goodness can be done.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking for greatness, though, leadership support is still critical for sure.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. Thanks.
yeah, yeah. You're welcome. Great question.